In this video I'm going to demonstrate file management in Image Pro. The Image Pro File Management view provides flexible and easy to use options for opening files, saving files, creating new files, and importing multidimensional datasets from folders of individual files. Select the File menu and the File Management view opens and takes up the full screen. The Recents list contains a list of files that you've opened in the past with the most recent files nearest the top. You can click on any file in the list to open it. You can search for specific files using the search field. You can then open them directly from the search field. Click Browse to open a Windows file browser in which you can navigate your folders and files. You can change your view, and you can focus on particular types of files if you wish. You can add frequently used or favorite locations as a place. Click Add a Place, then navigate to the folder you want to add. So in my case, I'm going to add the D drive. And it's added as a place from which you can easily browse your files. Let's add another one within my E drive. Note that the demo images are added as a place by default if you've installed the demo images. If you wish to remove a place, just select Remove Place from the drop-down menu. The Save option is activated only once an open image or set is changed in some way. So when I first open my image, this option is unavailable. But if I make a change, for example, applying a filter, this option becomes available to me. If you wish to change the name, save location or file format of an image or image set, select Save As. You can browse your most recent save location from where you can navigate to other locations. You can edit the file name and select from valid file formats from the drop-down menu. Select either More Options or Browse to open a Windows File Explorer, from which you can select your view, your location, your file name, and your file format that you wish to save in. You can add places to your Save As menu. And again, you can remove places by using Remove Place from the drop-down menu. If you want to build a multi-dimensional dataset from a folder of individual files, use the Import option. Now this option works in a number of different scenarios. Let's go through a few of them. The first scenario I'd like to discuss is importing a dataset from the broad bioimage benchmark collection with accession number BBBC015. This dataset is downloaded as a folder of files and represents a 96 well plate containing 3 replica rows, each of which represents 12 concentration points of an agonist. In each well there are 4 fields, and in each field there are 2 channels. If we look at the naming of the files, we can see that there are 3 incrementing numbers. The first number, which increments every 8 files, represents the site or the well. The second number, which increments every 2 files, represents the scan or field. And the second number, which increments every file and goes between 0 and 1, represents the channel. So the first thing we need to do from import is choose our folder of files. So I select the Choose Folder button, and then let's change the view. Then I can navigate to my folder of images. And then select Open. And select one of the files. And we see that here in the Select Data column, we see all of the files within the folder. But in the Define Dimension columns, I'm going to select Set Reference File. And Image Pro detects that there are 3 incrementing numbers in the file names, and now all I need to do is define what each of the numbers mean. So the first one we know is the site. The second one we know is the scan. And the final number represents the channel. And after I filled in these fields, we can see that Image Pro is correctly able to deduce the sequence of files. I then just need to set the channel dyes. So the first one is GFP. The second one is a nuclear stain, which I'm going to set to DAPI. And we can review in this preview here whether everything looks correct by scrolling through the preview of dimensions. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Image Pro that this represents a plate. So it's a 96 well plate which would contain 8 rows and 12 columns. And hit the Apply button. Now all I need to do is select Open Set, and the data set opens. As you can see, we have the 3 rows of the plate, as we expect, and for each well of the plate we have the 4 fields. And indeed we also have the 2 channels, GFP and DAPI channel. So we can now use this data for analysis in Image Pro. The next scenario I'd like to discuss is another data set downloaded from the broad bioimage benchmark collection, in this case with accession number BBBC13. Now in this case it's a 96 well plate, but with only 1 field per well and 2 channels per field, channel 1 being GFP and channel 2 being DAPI. Now if we look at the naming this time, it's a little bit less useful. It's a little bit less clear because one of the numbers which increments in the file names is repeated. That's going to make it harder for Image Pro to figure out the sequence of files. But we can still import them. And again, I'm going to start the import process by selecting Choose a Folder and then navigating to the correct folder of images. I'm going to select one of the images and click on the Open button, after which we see all the files in the folder displayed in the Select Data column. Now in this instance, if I set a reference file, the process won't work because I've got too many fields here. We have a repeating number which makes this ambiguous. So I'm going to reset and choose a different method of importing. So in this case I'm going to select all of the files that are labelled as channel 1. So by selecting the first, holding down the Shift key and then selecting the last, I can select them all, and I'm going to choose to add all of those files collectively as channel 1. We can see here they've all been added as channel 1. Now I know that these also represent wells 1 to 96, so I can choose to select these files and add them incrementally as sites, and you'll see that we have incrementing sites going up to correctly position 96. And I can do the same thing for all of the files labelled as channel 2, so I'm going to add them collectively as channel 2, and then add them incrementally from sites 1 to 96. Again, I know this is a 96 well plate, so it will contain 8 rows and 12 columns. And when I click the Apply button, Image Pro will know to open them in a well plate format. So let's again select the correct channel. So channel 1 is GFP, and channel 2 is DAPI. And again in the third column, Review, I can select and preview each of my channels and ensure that I'm seeing the correct organization of the files. And if I hit Open Set, here we have a fully populated well. We can navigate through this well plate either using the plate viewer or with the navigation tools beneath the image set. The final scenario I'm going to discuss to import is a dataset that came from the Cell Image Library, Project 2043. This is the work of Yu et al. Now in this case, the dataset represents 4 wells of a multi-well plate. There are 25 fields per well, and each well contains 2 channels. I've edited the name of these files to remove any useful information from them. When I downloaded them, they did actually contain useful information, but to illustrate how we import files that don't contain any useful information, they've been changed to just be named image 1 to image 200. So again, I'm going to choose my folder of images, select one of the images. And here we see all 200 files from the folder in the Select Data column. This time I'm going to set reference file, but instead of setting a single dimension here from the incrementing number, I'm going to choose the option to define multi-dimensions. And now what I have to do is tell ImagePro the order in which dimensions change. So I know that we have 4 sites, or 4 wells, and that inside each well there are 25 scans or fields. And in each field there are 2 channels. We can see that ImagePro has successfully been able to build these files into those dimensions. I'm then going to set the channel names, the first one being FITSI, and the second one is DAPI. I'm going to set this as a well plate with 2 by 2 columns, and click the Apply button and open the set. And if we add some contrast, we can see that we successfully built 2 by 2 well, and in each of these wells there are 25 fields. Of course we have 2 channels, FITSI and DAPI. The final things I'd like to mention in this video are that in the file management view you can find other options such as print, the option to give feedback on the product, and really importantly the application options. Here you get to configure the application with various different settings. So for example, from the image menu here I can choose to deselect the auto tile option and click OK to save that option. Thanks for joining me for this short video. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please contact Media Cybernetics and we'll be happy to help.